Rory McIlroy came into the FedExCup playoffs with almost everything to prove. Instead, 4 days later, one of golf's biggest stars was being accused of something far more damaging than simply playing badly. He was accused of phoning it in. And the timing couldn't have been worse. McIlroy finished 66th out of 68 players at the FedEx St. Jude Championship, 8 over par and a staggering 25 shots behind Scottie Scheffler. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because Rory says he wasn't giving up. He says he was lost. So what really happened in Memphis? And why are some people now questioning whether Rory McIlroy is fully invested in the PGA Tour's biggest moments? The numbers tell an ugly story. Rory McIlroy opened the tournament with a 4 over 74. He followed that with a 70, then another 72, and another 72. 4 rounds. 4 rounds without breaking par. And when it was finally over, McIlroy was sitting in 66th place. For a player ranked second in the world, a 2-time Masters champion in 2026, and a 4-time FedEx Cup champion, that isn't just a bad week. It's the kind of performance that immediately invites questions. Especially when the man destroying the field was standing right there, Scottie Scheffler. Scheffler didn't merely win the tournament, he won by 8 shots, and McIlroy finished 25 shots behind him. That contrast made Rory's performance look even worse, and that's when the criticism exploded. Some commentators looked at McIlroy's performance and questioned his level of commitment. The phrase "phoning it in" started appearing. In other words, was Rory simply going through the motions? Was he competing because he had to? Or was he genuinely trying to find his game? It's an important distinction. Because saying Rory played badly is a fact. Saying Rory didn't care is an accusation. And there is a major difference between the two. But the controversy didn't begin in Memphis. It actually started before the playoffs. McIlroy's 2026 schedule had already attracted attention because of the PGA Tour's minimum event requirement. He was projected to finish the Season 1 event short of the Tour's 15-event minimum required to maintain his home tour status. That created a scheduling dilemma for one of the PGA Tour's biggest stars. And then there was the memory of 2025. McIlroy skipped the opening FedEx Cup playoff event last year, choosing to rest. That decision drew criticism from PGA Tour officials. This year, however, Rory changed course. He returned to Memphis, and he explained that conversations with PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp helped influence his decision. McIlroy also stressed that having the top players participate matters to the tour and its competitive credibility. So Rory showed up, but unfortunately for him, simply showing up wasn't enough. Think about the optics. The PGA Tour wanted its biggest stars competing. Rory returned. The playoffs began, and then McIlroy produced one of the worst performances of his season. That's why the criticism became so easy to make. Because from the outside, it can look like this. The tour wanted Rory. Rory agreed to play, and then Rory finished almost dead last. But there was something happening beneath the surface that the scorecard couldn't show. After the tournament, McIlroy didn't pretend everything was fine. He didn't blame the golf course. He didn't blame the weather, and he didn't claim that he had secretly played well. Instead, Rory admitted something much more concerning. He said he felt lost with his swing, and he admitted he was so far away from where he needed to be. That is a very different story from simply not caring. McIlroy also acknowledged that the long break since the Open hadn't helped. This was his first competitive tournament in almost a month, and when he finally returned, his game wasn't ready. The biggest issue wasn't necessarily Rory's desire. It was his preparation. Golf is a brutally repetitive sport. Timing matters, feel matters, confidence matters, and when those things disappear, even a player as talented as Rory McIlroy can suddenly look completely ordinary. That's exactly what happened in Memphis. His driver wasn't behaving. His swing didn't feel trustworthy, and as the tournament progressed, Rory said he felt increasingly lost. That's why the criticism may be missing the bigger picture. A golfer can care deeply and still play terribly. Still, there is another side to this. Rory isn't an ordinary player. He's one of the faces of the PGA Tour. He's a 2-time Masters champion. He's won the FedEx Cup multiple times, and he has repeatedly spoken about wanting to compete at the highest level. So expectations are different. When an average tour player finishes 66th, people move on. When Rory McIlroy finishes 66th in the opening event of the FedExCup Playoffs, people start asking questions, especially when the tournament is supposed to be the beginning of the most important stretch of the season. That's the price of being Rory McIlroy. And here's what makes the story even more fascinating. Rory's season isn't over. Despite the disaster in Memphis, he remains safely inside the playoff picture. He advanced to the BMW Championship, where the field moves to Bellerive Country Club. And from there, only the top 30 players advance to the Tour Championship. Rory also remains in contention for something that would be enormous, a fourth FedEx Cup title. He hasn't won the FedEx Cup since 2022. So suddenly, the next tournament becomes more than just another event. It's a response. And that creates the question everyone will be watching. Can Rory fix his swing quickly enough? Because he doesn't have months. He doesn't even have weeks. He has a very short window to figure things out before the FedEx Cup playoffs move toward their conclusion. And Rory knows it. After Memphis, he admitted that there is a lot of work to do. He plans to work with his coach Michael Bannon and caddy Harry Diamond to try to find the answers before the BMW Championship. So is Rory McIlroy really phoning it in? The evidence doesn't prove that. In fact, Rory's own comments suggest something different. He wasn't satisfied. He wasn't comfortable, and he clearly knew his game was nowhere near where it needed to be. But perception can be just as powerful as reality in professional sports, and right now, the perception is uncomfortable. Because Rory McIlroy returned to the FedEx Cup playoffs with enormous expectations, and produced a performance that made some people wonder whether he was truly engaged. Now he has one tournament to change that narrative. Maybe Memphis was simply a terrible week. Maybe the long layoff disrupted Rory's rhythm. Maybe his swing problems are temporary. Or maybe we're watching something more significant happening to one of golf's greatest stars. That's what makes the BMW Championship so important. Because Rory McIlroy doesn't just need a better score. He needs an answer. And if he finds it, Memphis could quickly become nothing more than an embarrassing footnote. But if he doesn't, the questions about Rory's commitment, his schedule, and his future form are only going to get louder. Was Rory McIlroy really phoning it in? Or was he simply a great golfer who temporarily lost his game? The next tournament may give us the answer.